Hope you're ready to talk some music because we are talking music of the Halloween movies, but not just music, not the soundtracks, not those iconic scores by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth and Tyler Bates and John Carpenter some more. You know, they are phenomenal. We all know that. We love the Halloween soundtracks. I love the Halloween soundtracks. But what we're talking about here in this discussion is some of the other music featured prominently, and maybe some that you didn't even know was in some of these movies. But there's some really great songs featured throughout all 13 of the films over the years, and we're going to talk about some of them right now. And I'm going to go somewhat chronologically, kind of through the films, and pick out just some of my personal favorites as far as how they were used in the film and choices they were made, and some that have recurred from time to time and become part of the tapestry of this franchise. So let's get into this right now. Talk about the best songs from the Halloween movies. And of course, this discussion has to start with this one, Don't Fear the Reaper, of course, by Blue Oyster Cult. It is such a classic song to begin with. It's used so prominently and so memorably in the original 78 film. I could talk forever about just that scene and how that song is the one playing on the radio as Michael is following Laurie and Annie, and it's just so fitting, because Michael is kind of the Reaper, and of course they're not in fear of him at that time because they don't even know that he's after him at that time, and but that's not the only original song from the original film. Of course, right before that, a little band called the Coupe de Villes had their original song on the radio as well. That band being, of course, John Carpenter, Nick Castle, and Tommy Lee Wallace. And again, just that being in there is just part of the overall legend of John Carpenter and his crew, his guys. The fact that they would do that, the fact that they were into music so much that for fun they just formed their own band. Then of course they're gonna put their own track on the radio in there. You just gotta love all of that and just how much fun they were having while at the same time being practical. Hey, something's gotta be on the radio before the song we just spent all this money on to pay Blue Oyster Cult to use. What's something that we can use for free? And so there you go. So I love the use of that as well. But Don't Fear the Reaper, and of course that's not the only time we would see that film. It would resurface, or that song in a Halloween film. It would of course resurface later in Rob Zombie's remake, and then as the closer in the most recent film, of course. But we'll get to that. For now, let's move on to Halloween 2 and another song that has really become very much a part of the tapestry of the Halloween franchise, and that is, of course, Mr. Sandman, originally by the Chordettes here. Or is that the Cordettes? I think it's the Cordettes, maybe. Um, this song, as used in Halloween 2, and then again in Halloween H2O, and then again in the Rob Zombie remake. So again, 3 appearances throughout the 13 films, and I think it works because it is so kind of old school and just kind of happy, but then they're talking about Mr. Sandman, and you hear about the Sandman in general, and just you start paying attention to those lyrics, and it really just gives it kind of this kind of creepy undertone that I don't know was ever intended for it, but certainly the way it's used in Halloween 2, and then of course reused and referenced back in those others. It really gives that song, it makes it a Halloween song to me, being in these Halloween movies as prominently as it is. Don't Fear the Reaper could arguably already have been a Halloween time, Halloween season song, just with the lyrics that they're talking about on there, even if it was never featured in any movies about Halloween. But Mr. Sandman, I don't know that necessarily would, but now eternally connected to Halloween in this franchise, if you ask me. So, um, right there, that's two of the biggest right off the bat. That the first two films give us that the other films have referenced so many times and have really, those songs. Like I'll never listen to those two songs and not think of Michael Myers personally. And so that's effective use of a non-score, non-instrumental soundtrack piece of music in cinema, if you ask me. All right, now H3 and H4. Now H3, one of my favorite original songs in H3 is actually not technically a song, but it's the Silver Shamrock jingle. And I kind of count that. It is part of the score, and it's not really a song, but I kind of count that. I've included a playlist called Haddonfield Radio, and it's a Spotify playlist. It's in the description of this video right now, and you'll find that on there, and you'll find all of these that we're going to talk about here tonight and more on there. And I open it up to you as we go. Because again, this is not going to be an exhaustive list by any means of every song ever used in all 13 movies, because there's a lot more than you would imagine. But again, these are some of my favorites that stand out, some of the ones that I always like their use and just like in general. And but there are going to be some that I've overlooked and some that I'm just not thinking of right now for whatever reason. And I invite you to chime in. Um, that being said, outside of the Silver Shamrock jingle, not a lot of original song um, featured in H3 and H4. But when we get to H5, we get this great kind of 80s hair metal song by the band White Sister, and it's called "Dancing on Midnight," and it's featured in Halloween 5 during part of the party scene out at the Tower Farm, and it just goes by so quick. But the song's out there. The band their entire discography is out there on Spotify, and it's a great track, and just a fun moment that captures that 1989 Halloween 5 feel, which is admittedly, a little cheesy at times, a little goofy at times. I'm thinking of the police officers in Halloween 5 specifically. Um, but this song totally fits the mood of the era, and lyrically, "Dancing on Midnight." It's kind of cool. It kind of fits for a Halloween party. Um, oh yeah, this is a good one. Let's go back to this for a minute. This is actually from the music video for the song "And Fools Shine On." That's not a still from The Curse of Michael Myers, but many of you will recall that the closing credits of the 1995 sequel, Halloween the Michael Myers, The Curse of Michael Myers, featured a song that was kind of a hit song of that time, around that time. It was by the band Brother Kane. The song is "And Fools Shine On," and like I said, this still is from their official music video. and for that song, and I thought it was kind of cool at the time that they, of all the songs to end with, that it was kind of like this alternative rock song, which I was into that type of music. I was always into a little heavier than that, but I liked it. I definitely you know thought it was a cool choice, and the theatrical cut of Curse, as I mean, Alan Howarth recorded two whole soundtracks for that. Ultimately, um, when they finally released the producer's cut, Alan made a whole new soundtrack for that, and then he made the theatrical soundtrack much heavier. With it works in the guitar and all that. And while overall, if I got to pick a favorite cut of H6, I always go with the producer's cut. But I do like Alan Howarth's kind of more heavy metal soundtrack too, in a lot of ways. And this song, ending with that, kind of went with that. But mostly, I just thought it was kind of a cool, just kind of cool that they picked a rock band, and not even like a huge rock band at the time, but kind of an up and coming to go with then. Um, then with H2O, they would use another band that wasn't exactly up and coming and was pretty huge at the time. Of course, I'm talking about Creed and their song "What's This Life For," used pretty prominently in the early part of H2O, and that was a moment where I was never a huge fan of the band or that song in particular myself, and but that moment where it's used, it just really screams 1998. It's very much of the era of the time. It is what you know characters like John and Molly in that movie would probably be listening to, or at the very least, it would definitely be on the radio if they had the radio on. Um, so it certainly makes sense for that time period, and it was just kind of cool that in this instance, Halloween was so big that they're using like a big hit song right there in H2O, which we hadn't seen very much. I mean, like I said, it's a far cry from Dancing on Midnight, where it's kind of a deep cut. Now, when we get into the Rob Zombie films, of course, there's no shortage of amazing songs featured. Like, I mean, yeah, Zombie loves a needle drop, does he not? And I love his use of a lot of them. I mean, I think a lot of it is just really what's the word I'm looking for? Well, his soundtracks, I mean, he's got some good rock tunes on there. And the remake actually opens with Kiss's God of Thunder, which I still remember sitting in the theater watching that remake for the first time, and that bass drum comes in, and it's just, oh man. And then the first thing you see is Michael already wearing his clown mask, of course played by Dag, and he's screaming through the mask at Judith in the bathroom, and I just remember, Kiss is blasting. He's wearing the Kiss T-shirt, and I just remember watching it in the theater for the first time, thinking, man, we are not in John Carpenter's Haddonfield anymore, are we? But it was awesome. It was like I always say, it's totally different, but it for what it is awesome, and I love that as the intro song. Um, and of course, I'd have I'd be remiss not to talk about Zombie's significant use of the classic track "Love Hurts" by Nazareth. I mean, really bringing the title and the lyrics to this one a whole new meaning, as Michael is sitting there on Halloween night, um, just feeling all depressed, about to start doing some killing, some more killing. intercut with his mom at Rabbit in Red, dancing, the songs playing, and just a really, again, Zombie does this a lot with his films. He'll take these classic rock tunes and kind of use them in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be used. And so this definitely puts in somewhat ironic and just different twist on it, but a great song, a great classic song, and um, yeah, maybe the most iconic, effective use of it in uh, in a movie. I don't know. And then of course, Zombie returns to it at the end of his sequel, and does a different, a slower cover version of it. So, um, you know, in his own way, making Nazareth and Love Hurts its own significant part of the musical tapestry of Haddonfield. Now, moving into Halloween 2, there are so many songs, again, that I can single out, just like with Rob's Halloween remake. But one that is, of course, used so notably, and I've always loved the song, but seeing it in this movie, now I hear it again, and all I think of is this sequence in the movie. Of course, I'm talking about Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues. Always a very moody song, no pun intended, if you'll pardon the pun, I guess. Um, but but the way it's used in there, and if you've seen that work print trailer that was never officially released for the film, in which they used that song, and maybe that's why it was never the official trailer, but it's such a better just advertisement for that movie. And they used that song, which I thought was brilliant. Um, but again, it's Rob Zombie taking a song not really associated necessarily with horror, certainly with Halloween, and totally just redefining how we listen to it by how he uses it. So I love the use of Nights in White Satin in H2. And H2's got so many songs, so much so that Rob, they even created their own. Jeff Daniel Phillips' character is that host character at the party, and they even put out a whole album of the band playing there, Captain Clegg and the Night Creatures. They put out a whole album. There's like 3 songs that are featured in the soundtrack that you see them playing in that party scene and the scenes that take place at the party. But there's a whole album with other songs in there. And now musically, it's I don't know, rockabilly, I guess is what you would call it. It's kind of just yeah, kind of almost hillbilly-ish metal in a way. Rockabilly, I guess, is the only way I can really describe it. Um, an interesting choice for as far as the musical genre, but seeing as this is supposed to be basically a local band, probably, or a regional band playing a local Haddonfield, Illinois Halloween party. Yeah, they, that's like the type of music they would have there, probably. But have you heard all those songs? The Captain Clegg and the Night Creatures songs? And like I said, there are so many songs in Rob's movies, in both of them. Like I said, Don't Fear the Reaper resurfaces again in the background of the remake. Um, in H2, there's a lot just kind of going on in various moments that you don't even notice. But just one of the best Halloween songs in general is, of course, Misfits Halloween. Rob actually uses Misfits B side, Halloween 2. It's the remake that Misfits is in. But But just a great song either way, both Halloween and Halloween 2. Yeah, Misfits, Rocket. We play those in regular rotation around our house all the time, as is. And the most recent trilogy, David Gordon Green, Blumhouse Halloween films, um, has also given us some significant songs within the franchise. But one of the ones that I absolutely love their decision to go with was when they actually took Laurie's little song that she sings. I wish you had you all to myself. What's the line, Uh, in 78, and they actually made a song that sounded like a song that would have been recorded and released in the 70s. They used it in the 2018 film. It's playing in the background of the whole Lumpy and his dad sequence. It's performed by Heavy Young Heathens. It is included in my Spotify playlist, but unfortunately, the song itself is no longer available on Spotify at the moment anyway. At last check today. I don't know why. It's a shame because it is just, again, so cool that they took and again, Jamie Lee Curtis credited as a co-writer because she said that she kind of made that up on set at the time. Um, just one of the cool details of Halloween 2018 that a lot of people might not even realize went into it, or if you're listening to it, you don't even know. They play it in the closing credits as well, and you can get kind of the whole experience. It's in the background on the radio during the Lumpy scene, but they do play it in its entirety during the closing credits of 2018. But it's it's not a song from the 70s. It's a song from 2018, written and recorded for this film, done to sound as if it was written and recorded and released circa 1978. Just, just brilliant. Uh, um, yeah, just brilliant. All right. Now, so then we get to Halloween Kills, and again, like I said, this is not by any means an exhaustive list. This is simply some of uh, some of the highlights, most of the highlights, we'll say, but it's not all of them. Now, Kills had a couple tracks, but most notably the Ghost track, Hunter's Moon. And if you guys remember, that was released. It was right after we did a Michael Myers Monday here, and then they dropped that track. It was like after midnight, and I was all stoked sharing it with everybody. We had just gotten done here, and we got a new Carpenter track from the score at the same time on the same day. It was just such a magical, exciting time. Um, but Ghost, extremely theatrical, horror based band. So aesthetically, they fit the brand and the franchise perfectly. I do like, I don't know, it might be the album version that I actually like a little bit more um, than the version they ultimately put in the soundtrack. It's mixed slightly differently. Um, and I think it's actually the other version I prefer if I'm going to pick one. But badass cover art here for the single too, by the way. I love that. And Michael's mask makes an appearance in the official video for Hunter's Moon if you haven't seen that. So be sure to seek that out too if you haven't watched that yet. But I thought that was a pretty cool inclusion in that franchise or in that film. And then moving into Halloween Ends. Let's talk about that for a minute because Halloween Ends uses has a great soundtrack actually, and uses a bunch of songs, many of which are great for just your general Halloween playlist, your Halloween holiday playlist. Um, and one of which, I mean, I like the song that opens the movie. The movie actually, it's Midnight Monster Hop, which was also recently removed from Spotify. I don't know why, but that's a good one. There's a lot of good ones on that soundtrack. But one of the classics from Halloween Ends is the Dead Kennedys song Halloween, and of course it's such a cool moment in the movie where Corey and Allison are at the Halloween party, and they go wearing their masks, their Scarecrow and Black Cat, and eventually they're not. They're out there dancing, and it's this song playing, and actually, when I interviewed the film's co-writer and the novelization author, Paul Brad Logan, he explained that that whole dance they're doing is choreographed. That if you really watch it, there it basically tells Corey and Allison's whole story in that dance, including it ending with Corey laying down on his back on the ground, Allison standing over him, which is how their story ultimately ends. So a cool moment in the film, it's like some genuine happiness for the two of them to be able to cut loose and enjoy this moment. And then, of course, very soon after that, they don't have much more fun throughout the rest of the movie. Um, but again, a classic, just Halloween song, great song for Halloween itself, and just a great addition to this soundtrack. Now, like I said, I've got an entire playlist of Haddonfield radio friendly songs from these films. And I'm going to pull that up for you now so you can see just a taste of some of the other ones that we haven't even hit on here tonight, because there are just so many. You can see some of the ones we talked about, but I mean, going back to Rob Zombie's movies, he's using Alice Cooper's "Only Women Bleed" right before Daniel Harris is attacked. Of course, Tom Sawyer, the Rush song. I love the use of that in '07. Um, More cool metal buried within H2. There's "Am I Evil" by Diamond Head playing in one of the scenes. There's an Iron Maiden song, "Face in the Sand." Um, a classic, awesome, very fitting Motorhead song, "The Chase is Better Than the Catch." We talked about some of the Captain Clegg songs. Going back to Kills, I love the "Stop, Look, and Listen, It's Halloween" song. That's another one I really love from Kills. It's the one that the Johns are playing as they're getting ready to throw down. Um, there's the Boy Harsher song, "Burn It Down," from In's soundtrack as well. I like that one a lot. The "I Was a Teenage Werewolf" by the Cramps. I mean, just so many um, good ones over the years. And again, this isn't even all of them. This is just some, this is like literally about 25, 26 of the highlights that I've pulled out and made note of over the years. But I'm sure there are ones that I've overlooked, and other ones that we're just not discussing tonight because we just don't. We'd be here all night to talk about every single one of them. So when we talk about ends, then, and we're talking about music, songs in the Halloween movies, you know, we have to bring it back to where we started, because Halloween ends so brilliantly, in my opinion. It ends with "Don't Fear the Reaper," and I could talk forever about why I love that they chose that song to roll over the credits at the end of the movie. Um, but I just think it's a perfect choice, and I think it brings it back full circle. It's the third time the song is used in the franchise, again indelibly tying it to Haddonfield, to Michael Myers in so many ways, um, and just reminds you after watching Ends and watching the most recent trilogy of where all this started, and it's just a cool way to harken back to 78 all them years later. And it kind of, in a lot of ways, I mean, the lyrics are great, and you can take a lot of different things from the lyrics of the song. Um, but you could argue that it kind of goes along with a lot of what Laurie is saying at the end of Halloween Ends. So, in even more reason that it be fitting like that. So, I love that it wraps up with that. So I'm not going to do a ranking or anything here, but if I got to pick one of these songs featured to be my personal favorite, both in terms of just as a song, as the composition of a song, as what it means to me personally, as to what it means in the films that it's been used, and to the franchise in general. For me, yeah, I I gotta go with "Don't Fear the Reaper." I mean, it's a masterpiece, and it's been used in uh, in this franchise so effectively. So, if I gotta pick one, but all the ones we've talked about tonight, I like. Some of them I really like, and some of them I really love how they are used in these films. Um, Sometimes just for fun and unexpectedly, you know. But other times just really like, oh man, that is the perfect song for that moment right now. But very often it's like, wow, I never would have put this song with this imagery, and I think that's why it often works. You know, like the Mr. Sandman, or even like something like Tom Sawyer. You know, I wouldn't put that with Michael Myers, but then it's such a cool moment when that does kick in, and you're just like, yeah, this doesn't have anything to do with Halloween lyrically, but I get it. It it kind of does in a way. Um, so tell me the ones that I missed. Check out my Spotify playlist, the Haddonfield Radio playlist. I put it down in the description here. Listen to that. Listen to the other ones we didn't talk about. Tell me what other tracks we overlooked that we didn't talk about here tonight that we should have spent more time on. What are some of your favorites? What are some of your less favorites? You're like, yeah, I wish they didn't have that song in there, and they should have used this. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear your opinions on all of this.